Steven Sackur talks a tough game. That's what Hard Talk's all about. Hard questions for everybody, softballs for nobody. Equal opportunity offender. No favorites, not even prisoners.
Now on BBC World News, Hard Talk asks tough questions in interviews with people who are shaping the news.
Sometimes he's harder on some than others. For example, Israelis and Palestinians.
First of all, no Israeli police is shooting in cold blood. We are not.
Have you seen the video?
I saw some video.
So I'm telling you, there's a whole
wave.
Do you have murders in Israel?
Yeah, we do have murders in Israel.
You do, just
but
as
there's
we do
a
in Britain.
right now and should be brought to
politicians
justice.
like you, very senior politicians, help to establish that fear and anger.
As I was saying,
it was the Mufti who gave Hitler the idea to kill or burn the Jews.
Decades before the occupation, before the settlements.
Yad Vashem's chief historian, Dina Parat, has said, you simply cannot say it was the Mufti who gave Hitler the idea to kill or burn the Jews. He was playing, let's get to the point here. He's the Prime Minister of your country. You know what? As you're talking there about your view of the solution, I'm reading something that Amos Oz said
Are you
recently.
reading while I'm talking? This is pretty
it's rude, but here's what it is, just very relevant.
This time, it got so bad, Lapid reacted.
Believe me, we challenge the Palestinians on the language they use. So let's get back to that, if we may, and we'll be doing interviews with Palestinians. You needn't worry about that. But I want to be clear about this. You say...
Were you? Because I was watching this show, and you know what? It's interesting to me. Whenever there's a Palestinian here, you don't ask the questions that are that difficult.
Well, you haven't been watching the show enough then, because the Palestinians say just the same thing to me that you've said. Oh, you're tougher on me than you are on the other side.
Yes, but I'm right.
Well, and that's what they say too. So we're going around in circles.
A week later, he gave a really hard time to Saeed Barakat.
This tolerance to Israeli occupation, to Israeli policies, to Israeli war crimes being committed against the Palestinian people, this should stop.
But I'll tell you what.
We want to live. We want our grandchildren to live.
I know. I hear your
That is
points,
the truth, Stephen.
But
no father, no mother wants to bury their children. They love their children as much as you love your children.
But here's what I'm trying to look at
this situation.
I'm trying to look at the big...
It's been 48 years since this occupation came about. I was 12 years old when the Israeli occupation came to my hometown in Jericho.
Let me get a word in.
I'm 60 years old today with 6 grandchildren. This must stop. This occupation must stop.
Let me, if I may, get a word in, if I may.
No hard questions about the cult of martyrdom and Palestinian mothers who rejoice when their children commit suicide trying to kill Israelis?
Let me, if I may, get a word in, if I may.
By the end, he suddenly remembered it's supposed to be an interview.
Let me ask you a few questions, otherwise it won't really be an interview.
Was this a once-off? Just by chance, Sackur was off his game twice, bullying the Israeli, bullied by the Palestinian? Or was it a pattern? Recently, he went at it again. Interview with an Israeli, followed rapidly by an interview with a Palestinian. You be the judge.
We speak about Iran, which is with a real threat to the Middle East, not only to Israel, but also for the Saudis,
no, Ambassador,
Jordanians,
with
Egyptians,
respect, my question is not about Iran. My question is about civilian protesters in the Gaza Strip who for many months have been protesting along that border fence. No, but you acknowledge then, you do acknowledge that all of this rhetoric about them being a terrorist organization that you'll never talk to and all of that, it's basically nonsense. No, hang on. What do you mean you respect it? You're thrilled by it. Mr. Netanyahu said this. He said,
so let me finish.
Do you think Barack Obama is a racist against Israel? Yeah, I know. Ambassador, surely you haven't got such a short memory. I mean, surely you remember during the apartheid years in South Africa.
A week later, Sackur interviewed Palestinian artist Suleiman Mansour. He had prepared a hard question for him, which he asked 3 times, softly.
But projecting your artistic vision of what a Palestinian identity was, does that make you a political artist? Does it even at times make you a propagandist? Is that really the truth of the way Palestinians always are? Or is it more a sort of propaganda notion to help the cause? Do you feel, in a way, a little embarrassed by it, that it projects images which don't really match today's reality?
When he did interrupt his interviewee, it was to help him.
checkpoints, that we have hundreds of checkpoints here and there. It like separated people from each other.
Sort of fragmentation.
Fragmentation of the society.
Not to ask hard questions like, oh, come, Mr. Mansour, do you really think you should be complaining about checkpoints when they're there to stop Palestinian terrorists encouraged by your own leaders? Maybe Lapid did hit the nail on the head.
The Palestinians say just the same thing to me that you've said. Oh, you're tougher on me than you are on the other side.
Yes, but I'm right.
Stephen, you're a talented journalist, and when you're on your game, a good, tough interviewer. But here in the Middle East, you seem out of your depth, swinging wildly from aggressive contempt for Israelis to elaborate deference for Palestinians, from hard talk to soft talk. And you end up bullying the Israelis and getting bullied by the Palestinians. Maybe you owe it to yourself and to your viewers to take Lapid's challenge seriously. If the rest of the evidence is anything like these 4 examples, it is, then you owe us some answers to some tough questions. Why are you so deferential to the Palestinians? Is it because they're the underdogs? And if it is, why not just admit it rather than this charade of equal treatment?
Well, you haven't been watching the show enough then, because the Palestinians say just the same thing to me that you've said.
Is it because you think this kind of favoritism ill becomes a serious journalist? And if it isn't favoritism, what is it? Are you afraid? And afraid of whom? Are you afraid of Palestinian hostility? The disapproval of your peers at the BBC? Or are you afraid that if you push Mr. Mansour to criticize his government, you could put his life in danger? Does such a thought even occur to you when you press Israelis hard to criticize their right-wing government?
What is your Prime Minister doing today, in your opinion?
What I want, listen, first of
Well,
all,
just answer the
yeah, I
question.
know, but I'm not going to sit on foreign soil and criticize my Prime Minister. Even I didn't vote for him. I'm from a different party. I'm part of the opposition.
Of course not. Israelis get to bash their own country and run for office.
Our own government, unfortunately, involved in the last 3 years in a direct attack on the very foundation and institutions of our democracy.
So what are you doing? And are you even aware of it? Or is just looking good what really counts? Here.